Financial Survival Network, helping you survive and thrive in the new economy. Go to CarrieLutz.com and sign up for 30 free micro trainings on financial survival.
1490 WGCH, this is Carrie Lutz. You're listening to the Financial Survival Network. Back with me again is Bix Weir, great website, roadtoruta.com. Bix, where are we on the road to Ruta?
Oh, we're in very exciting times on the road to Ruta. We're at, everything is happening now. And from everything I've looked at over the past 10 years in silver and gold and in the manipulation of our markets, it's all coming to a head. And hopefully by the end of 2012, if everything goes as planned, we will have free markets again. But, we're going to have to go through a crash to get there. So I'm looking at March timeframe for the crash of the world, shall we say, with all markets going haywire.
Well, they seem to be doing everything in their power to avoid the reemergence of the free market in metals and anything else that they can avoid, aren't they?
They are, and truthfully, they have been for the last since the early 70s. So, it is a big deal that they're going to turn off the manipulation of the markets, and anything could happen once a free market takes hold.
What do you think is the most apparent sign that makes you believe they're going to turn off the manipulation? One
of the most apparent signs is the implementation of position limits for silver, because they don't want, the CFTC doesn't want the implementation of these limits to cause the crash. But at the same time, they know as well as everybody around the world that the fraud is apparent, it's ongoing, it happens on a daily basis. All the silver investigations are still wide open. They're still investigating. They have to come to a conclusion. So the CFTC is right on the brink now. And theoretically, and from everything I'm hearing, coming from Gary Gensler, the head of the CFTC, they're going to define the word swaps in January, and then there's a 60-day implementation. So it's mid-March, which is kind of right where everything falls in place as far as my analysis of our return to a gold and silver standard and what it needs to get there, and the Ron Paul movement that's happening now. So it's all coming in place. The question's going to be, when does the chaos kick off, and is everybody ready for it?
Yeah, it's a little, we're living in interesting times, aren't we?
We are, and it's exciting, and it will be kind of a creative destruction event where all this malinvestment and all the derivatives and everything will kind of implode upon itself, because the system is unsustainable, and pretty much anybody who's been studying economics and watching the markets can conclude that there's no way you can print your way to prosperity, and that's what the U.S. has been doing since the early 70s.
Yeah, it's kind of like the minimum wage laws, right? It's like, hey, if minimum wage laws are such a good idea and you can set it at $8.50, then why not set it at $25? Because, you can just legislate prosperity effectively. And that's the thing that people just don't get.
And we're seeing, the Obama administration live that philosophy, and at some point very soon, I believe, within the next first quarter, you're going to see the consequences of that type of mentality. That the mentality that there is a free lunch, and that the government should take care of your every need is just flat out wrong. It has failed so many times in history, and we're going to see that come on fast and strong in the next couple months.
And that is a scary occurrence, isn't it?
Oh, it's frightening because we're not used to it. We're used to being taken care of. We're used to having all these regulations and having all this the fallback for people who don't have as much as others, things like that. Now, I'm not advocating that the 1% is correct. I think the 1%. A large portion of them stole that money, didn't earn that money. So there is a need for some kind of a redistribution of wealth, but it can't be, a single entity or a government deciding, you get X amount of money and you get Y amount of money, and we're going to take your money to help this person over here. Government needs to get out of it all and let the free market take its proper place in our society.
Yeah, it sounds like a dream come true, though, huh? I mean, it's like we've been waiting for this and waiting, and
well, we're there. We're there in 2012, and if everything that I see coming out of the Federal Reserve Boston that I've analyzed over these past few years, if it is real and it is happening that the good guys within the U.S. are taking back our system, it's all going to happen this year.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of with you on that. I think it's inevitable, like you said, because you can only pile on debt for so long, and then eventually it becomes unsustainable. You're paying interest on interest, and then when you're interest on interest, you're end game. And that brings us back to the metals. So they're going to be decontrolled, and we're like one black swan away from them just taking off, aren't we?
We are, but remember, once gold and silver are freely traded, then you've got an implosion of every derivative. J.P. Morgan has 90 trillion in derivatives. All the derivative complex goes. You have banks collapsing left and right. You have banks collapsing. You'll also have businesses collapsing, individuals losing their personal wealth. So the linchpin is gold and silver. They have to control it until it can't be controlled anymore. Once the control of gold and silver goes away, and say gold goes to 10,000 an ounce and silver goes probably higher than that, then you have serious problems with everything around, and you understand and you find out that the system you were living under for the past 40 years does not work and was not sustainable.
Yeah, and failure was always the inevitability of it. It makes you wonder, like, what was Nixon thinking about? Because it's not the first time that a fiat money system has been attempted, and yet they keep trying the same old failed policies over and over again, right?
Yeah, but when you look at Nixon, the reason he went off the gold standard was not because just wanted to. It was because France was trading in their dollars for gold because they knew the U.S. was printing more dollars than they had gold to back it up. So it's kind of one of those things. The whole theory behind the road to Ruta is based off a theory in the 1960s called On the Road to the Golden Age, which was a theory that to go back onto a gold standard from an unbacked or pseudo-unbacked system, you need to run the computers and your printing presses until you soak up all the advantages of that unbacked fiat money. And then after the whole world is awash in fake money, you crash the system and go back to a gold standard.
So it's been a conscious plan from the beginning, huh?
For some, it has been, yes, and then the bankers kind of took it over in the 80s, and they've been in control basically since the 80s and rigging the markets to prolong the system, an unbacked fiat money system, but two, to enrich themselves, and build their power, and it kind of all culminated on 9/11, and then the good guys, shall we say, who originally started this implementation program in the 70s. Decided we're going to take our country back, and it's been 10 years since we've been fighting the bad guys to regain control of our country, but it's happening, and I think keep an eye on Ron Paul, keep an eye on Sarah Palin, believe it or not, endorsing Ron Paul, because that is a linchpin to the popularity of Ron Paul. Right now it's a bunch of smart people and smart followers chasing Ron Paul with all their might, but once Sarah Palin joins the Ron Paul camp, you're going to see everybody come on, and you're going to see a change in attitude about Ron Paul's potential for being president.
Oh, that's cool, because I have this piece of art. I'm going to send you the JPEG of it. My landlord's brother's a well-known artist, and he did this flag with Ron Paul on it. And I think this thing, once we start getting it out, is going to go viral because it's totally cool. I mean,
yeah, I'd love to check it out.
Yeah, it's really the neatest thing. I think, I think you'll get a kick out of it for sure. So, anyways, is there anything else you're thinking that we're going to see in 2012? What'll be the real tip-off event that the whole road to Ruta is imminent?
Well, there's there's so many different parts to the road to Ruta, but keep an eye on the European situation. That will probably go first. The euro will go down. You'll have some countries kind of defecting from the euro, and once a couple countries go off it, the snowball begins to grow and grow, and having other countries in charge of your sovereign monetary system is ridiculous. It was planned as a one world government move originally, and it is failing because the good guys are taking them down. But once Europe goes, keep an eye on the U.S. Probably within 3 or 4 weeks after Europe kind of implodes, you're going to see banks in the U.S. go down, and once you hear about Europe going down, run to your bank and get every penny out, because every single bank is so interconnected with all these derivatives that not one bank or mutual fund or anything can survive the crash of just one of these large institutions like J.P. Morgan.
Yeah, weapons of mass financial destruction, huh?
That's right. That's Warren Buffett's take on it. And the funny thing about Buffett, and I've talked about this on my website, he was many people who follow Buffett think he's gone crazy with his in the last 5 years with all his he's now heavily invested in the derivative market, and he's had some gains but some huge losses as well. And this is the guy who coined the phrase weapon of mass financial destruction, and now he's sitting there with, I think it was, last I heard, was 50 billion, I think 50 billion or so of or trillion or something ridiculous of derivatives.
Crazy number.
Yeah, but my take is he's doing it on purpose to take the system down, because the last time we tried to take him down in 2008, the bad guys, shall we call them, were able to sneak away, and I think this time there's nowhere to go, and Buffett's going to help kind of drive the sword into these guys.
Yeah, nowhere to run to and nowhere to hide, right? The song says.
Yeah, that's a great song, and it's so true for 2012. And those people who are kind of discouraged about gold and silver, don't be. If you have physical metal in your hand, you'll be fine. Just tell yourself you're going to have to ride this out. You weren't going to sell it anyway today. You're going to have to ride it out till probably mid 2012. And then you can, I'm not saying to sell then either, because I think we're transitioning to a gold and silver standard. So don't think of silver and gold coins in your pocket as something you're going to trade in and out of. This is my investment portfolio. And don't get sad when they knock it down 50%. Look at it as a buying opportunity. Look at it as anything you want. Just don't sell. Hold on to your metal, because it's the only thing that's going to come out the other end.
Yeah. I mean, so many people. We've had dozens of guests on this show, and I haven't heard one of them say, you know what, this is it. It's a bubble. Sell your metal. And they're coming from all different types of analysis, all different investment themes. A lot of them own gold stocks and mining stocks, but nobody says get rid of your core holding. So
when you can walk around to your friends and family and neighbors and ask everybody how many ounces of gold and silver they hold on their possession, and you get a 90% of them saying, well, I have this amount, then you should start thinking it's in a bubble. But right now, even, I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been running down the street screaming about gold and silver throughout my town, throughout my family. Almost nobody even though they've seen that I've been successful at it, nobody else, a couple people, but hardly anybody else is involved with gold and silver. It is not even close to a bubble.
Amazing, huh?
It is.
Amazing. So, anyways, tell us where we find you, Bix, on your website.
You can go to roadtoruta.com, and I have a free section on the top and I send out email updates on where we are on the return of our sovereign power in our fiat money system and the return of gold and silver into circulation. And it's a fun thing to watch and keep up on, and I try to keep everybody up on what's going on behind the scenes.
All right. Hey, thanks for being on again, and we'll check in with you next month, and we'll definitely be staying in close touch.